You ever notice how energy don't lie? You can fake words, you can fake smiles, you can fake a post online, but you can't fake energy. When your spirit shifts, when your mindset elevates, people feel that before you even open your mouth. That's the thing about growth. It's silent, but it's loud to those who once had access to you. When you finally reach that point where you stop trying to prove something to somebody who already made up their mind about you, that's when the shift begins. It ain't about being cold or bitter. It's about finally realizing your peace ain't up for negotiation. You move different. You talk less, you smile more, but not because you got it all figured out, because you stopped letting people play with your time, your energy, your purpose. See, before that shift happens, you used to chase clarity. You wanted people to understand you, to match your loyalty, to meet you halfway. You thought love meant staying available no matter how they move. But then life hits you with that lesson. You can't pour into someone who's comfortable watching you run dry. That realization burns for a second, but it lights a fire that never goes out. That's when the energy shift becomes real. You start to feel a different kind of power. Not the kind that's loud or flashy, but that inner calm that comes from finally being aligned with who you really are. You wake up and instead of checking who texted you, you check in with yourself. You focus on what's feeding your growth, not what's feeding your ego. You stop explaining your worth and start showing it through the way you move, the choices you make, the peace you protect. And that's when people start acting different. They feel it before they understand it. They'll say, you changed, but what they really mean is you stopped allowing me to treat you the same. They'll test that silence because they're used to your energy being easy to reach. They're used to your presence being a guarantee. But when you pull that back, when your focus shifts inward, that's when they realize they lost something they didn't know how to value. That's the cold truth about growth. It don't announce itself. It just happens. One day you stop reacting to what used to bother you. One day you stop explaining why you deserve respect. One day you stop giving access to people who never earned it. That's the shift. That's power. And when it happens, everything in your world changes. Your relationships, your circle, your focus, even your walk. You move slower, but with purpose. You talk softer, but with confidence. You stop chasing recognition because you realize peace is worth more than attention. That's a heavy kind of freedom. You start to understand that energy is currency. The same way you wouldn't hand out your money to just anybody, you stop giving your time, your love, your attention to anyone who ain't reciprocating it. You become intentional with your space. You start seeing who's really for you, not by what they say, but by what they invest into your peace. And it's crazy because once your energy shifts, people who once doubted you will start feeling that void. They'll notice you ain't available the same way. They'll miss the version of you who tolerated their inconsistency. But the truth is, you can't go back to that. Once you taste real self-respect, fake love don't hit the same. This shift ain't about revenge or ego. It's about evolution. It's about realizing that your silence holds more weight than your arguments ever did. It's about understanding that not everybody deserves access to the healed version of you. The old you wanted to be understood. The new you just wants peace. When your energy changes, your whole frequency rises. You start attracting different conversations, different people, different blessings. You move from needing validation to knowing your value. That's when you truly win. When you can sit alone in your own peace and not feel lonely. Because now you understand what you give energy to grows. So you stop feeding drama, you stop feeding fear, you stop feeding old habits. Instead, you feed your dreams, your discipline, your faith. You realize peace ain't something you find, it's something you protect. And that's the real transformation. When your energy shifts, your life shifts. When you stop chasing what's fading and start investing in what's real, that's when you become untouchable. That's when you walk different. Not because you're better, but because you finally understand your worth. That's the energy shift. The moment you realize your silence, your peace, your focus is the loudest statement you'll ever make. There comes a time in every man's life when he's got to decide what he values more, his emotions or his self-respect. And that decision right there defines everything that follows. Because when you lead with emotion, you react. But when you move with self-respect, you respond. There's a big difference between those two. One keeps you trapped in cycles. The other sets you free. See, when you operate from emotion, you let people control your peace. They say something slick, you react, they pull away, you chase. They come back, you open the door like nothing happened. That's emotion. That's weakness disguised as loyalty. You tell yourself you're just being real, just loving hard. But truth is, you're letting your feelings drown your standards. You're trading peace for presence, respect for attention. And when you do that long enough, you start to lose sight of yourself. But when you move with self-respect, everything changes. You stop explaining what you bring to the table. You stop begging people to value what they can't afford. You realize that your worth ain't up for debate, and you carry yourself like it. It ain't about pride, it's about boundaries. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, I refuse to lose myself trying to keep somebody who's okay with losing me. When you start valuing your self-respect over your emotions, you gain something money can't buy. Peace. You don't chase closure, you create it. You don't argue for understanding, you accept reality. You don't move to prove something, you move to protect your energy. And that shift right there, that's growth, that's discipline, that's maturity. People don't like when you stop reacting emotionally because that means they can't control you no more. They'll say you're acting different, that you're cold, that you don't care. But really, you just stop letting chaos dictate your direction. You learn to choose yourself even when it hurts. You learn that walking away ain't weakness, it's wisdom. See, emotion will have you texting when you know you shouldn't. Emotion will have you forgiving someone who keeps showing you they ain't changing. Emotion will keep you in rooms where your spirit don't feel safe. But self-respect, that's a whole different kind of energy. Self-respect says, I can love you and still leave you. I can miss you and still move on. I can care, but I won't compromise who I am just to keep you around. That's what real strength looks like. Not the loud kind, not the type that flexes online, but that quiet strength that says, I know my worth even if you don't. You start realizing that protecting your peace is more important than proving your love. You start understanding that distance sometimes speaks louder than dialogue. And yeah, it hurts at first because your emotions are used to leading. You're conditioned to believe that love means sacrifice, even when the other side ain't giving the same. You are taught to be available even when it drains you, but once you start honoring your boundaries, once you start listening to that inner voice that says, this ain't serving me no more, that pain turns into power. You start walking with a different type of confidence, not because you healed everything, but because you're no longer betraying yourself to please someone else. When you move with self-respect, you understand that silence is stronger than reaction. You start letting people feel your absence instead of hearing your arguments. You stop trying to convince them of your value because real recognize real, and anyone who can't see it ain't meant to sit at your table anyway. The truth is, emotion makes you impulsive, but self-respect makes you intentional. Emotion keeps you stuck, but self-respect gets you free. You start making decisions that align with your peace, not your pain. You start choosing discipline over drama, clarity over confusion. That's when life starts aligning for real. So when you feel that urge to chase, to explain, to beg, to prove, pause, ask yourself, is this my heart talking or my self-worth? Because one will keep you repeating lessons, the other will graduate you from them. You got to learn to love from a place of strength, not sacrifice, to give without losing, to care without clinging, to stand on your value even when it means standing alone. That's what separates men who grow from boys who repeat cycles. Self-respect ain't arrogance, it's awareness. It's knowing your energy is sacred and not everybody deserves access to it. It's walking away not because you don't care, but because you finally do about yourself. At the end of the day, your emotions are temporary, but your peace is permanent. You can't build a solid life on unstable feelings. You build it on principles, on discipline, on knowing when to stay and when to go. That's how you evolve. That's how you win. So protect your energy, protect your peace, and protect your self-respect. Because once you start choosing that over emotion, you stop losing yourself for people who were never meant to keep you. And that's the real freedom, loving yourself enough to never let anyone play you twice. Value and vibration, two things that define everything about how your life moves, how people treat you, and what kind of energy you attract. See, when you're operating at a low frequency, you attract people, habits, and situations that match that vibration. You'll wonder why you keep ending up in the same cycles, why the same type of people keep showing up wearing different faces. It's not coincidence, it's alignment. You can't attract high frequency energy when you're stuck operating in low value spaces. Real talk, your life is a mirror. What you see around you is reflecting what's going on inside you. When your value system is rooted in attention, validation, and temporary feelings, your vibration will stay low. You'll keep chasing approval, keep settling for what's easy, and keep mistaking attachment for love. But the moment you start shifting your value, when you start prioritizing peace over attention, purpose over comfort, growth over gossip, that's when everything around you begins to change. The thing about vibration is it's felt before it's seen. People can feel when you move with intention. They can feel when you've done the work, when your energy is stable, when you're not desperate for connection. That's power. You don't got to prove it. You just be it. You walk in a room and your energy speaks before your mouth does. That's high vibration. That's alignment. Well, let's be clear. Value doesn't come from what you wear, what you drive, or what you post. That's surface. Real value is internal. It's the discipline to stay focused when distractions pull at you. It's the integrity to stay solid when temptation tests you. It's the patience to build something real when everybody else chasing shortcuts. That's value. And when that becomes your foundation, your vibration naturally rises. You start to see life differently. You start moving from lack and start moving from abundance. You stop asking why me and start saying try me. You stop competing because you understand there's no competition when you're in your own lane. The world feels that shift. People who once overlooked you start noticing your growth. Some will respect it, others will resent it. But either way, your energy becomes undeniable. See, when you raise your vibration, you start to vibrate out of alignment with certain people. Not because you're better, but because you've outgrown the frequency y'all once shared. You can't expect peace while staying connected to chaos. You can't chase purpose while still entertaining distractions. That's why distance becomes necessary. That's why silence becomes sacred. You're not isolating, you're elevating. And yeah, that elevation costs you some company. You'll lose people who don't understand this version of you. They'll say you changed, but the truth is you just stopped operating on a level that kept you stuck. You started realizing that peace ain't boring, it's powerful. That solitude ain't punishment, it's preparation. You start understanding that your energy is too expensive to be spent explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Value and vibration go hand in hand. One feeds the other. When your value increases, your vibration naturally follows. You stop settling for temporary people and temporary fixes. You stop being available to situations that don't pour back into you. You learn to protect your energy like currency because it is. You start investing it only in people and projects that align with where you're headed, not where you've been. And the wild part, once you start moving with that kind of clarity, you stop chasing. Opportunities start finding you. The right people start showing up. The right conversations start happening because you're vibrating on a frequency that attracts what's meant for you. You become magnetic not because of your looks or your lifestyle, but because of your discipline, your peace, your consistency. But it all starts with recognizing your value. You can't attract something you don't believe you deserve. You can't receive abundance while thinking from scarcity. You got to see yourself as worthy of more before more ever arrives. That's the mindset shift that changes everything. When your vibration rises, your world slows down. You stop forcing and you start flowing. You start understanding that what's not aligned will naturally fall away and what's meant will find its way. You stop holding on to people out of fear and start releasing them out of faith. You stop fighting for your value to be seen and start living in a way that makes it impossible to ignore. That's what value and vibration are about. Being so grounded in who you are that you don't chase energy, you attract it. Being so clear about your worth that you stop apologizing for it. Being so consistent in your peace that no temporary storm can shake it. Your vibration is your message to the universe. Keep it high, keep it pure, keep it aligned with purpose. Because once your value becomes your foundation, your vibration becomes your language, and the world will always respond to that frequency. Peace is not something that simply happens to you. It's something you earn through understanding, discipline, and perspective. It's the result of seeing the world as it really is, not as you wish it to be, and learning how to navigate it with clarity. Most people think peace means stillness or the absence of conflict. It's not. Real peace is the ability to stay centered while the world around you moves in chaos. It's a form of strength that comes from knowing how to deal with reality without being consumed by it. The truth is, life will always test you. Things will go wrong, people will disappoint you, and outcomes won't match expectations. That's the nature of the game. You can't control what happens, but you can control how you respond. And that response determines everything. When you're at peace internally, you make better decisions. You see patterns clearly. You don't waste energy reacting emotionally. Instead, you respond rationally with purpose. That's power. Power in life doesn't come from force. It comes from control, not over others, but over yourself. When you can manage your reactions, your impulses, your fears, and your ego, you move through life differently. You don't get pulled into unnecessary drama. You don't chase validation or revenge. You think long term. You operate strategically. That's what separates people who succeed from those who self-destruct. Peace isn't about being passive. It's about being deliberate. It's a byproduct of understanding the cause and effect nature of the world. Once you accept that everything around you is governed by principles, actions, reactions, timing, and consequences, you stop fighting reality and start using it. You start realizing that most of your stress comes not from what happens, but from resisting what's happened. The moment you align yourself with truth, peace follows. And it's not easy. Achieving peace requires internal work. It means facing your weaknesses instead of hiding from them. It means accepting responsibility for your own life instead of blaming others. It means understanding your emotions, not suppressing them, but studying them. Emotions are signals. They're feedback. Anger, fear, anxiety, they're all data points telling you something about your current state or expectations. If you can read them without being controlled by them, you can make better choices. That's what emotional intelligence really is, and peace grows out of it. Most people think chaos comes from outside circumstances, but often it's self-created. It comes from lack of clarity, lack of purpose, lack of alignment. When your actions aren't consistent with your values, you'll always feel internal friction. That's why peace isn't external. It's an internal structure built on principles. You create it by defining what truly matters to you, aligning your actions with that truth, and eliminating everything that doesn't serve it. Once you build that internal stability, life becomes less reactive. You start to see conflict as opportunity. Challenges don't shake you, they shape you. Pain becomes a teacher instead of an enemy. You start thinking in terms of systems, not moments. You analyze patterns, not problems. And because of that, you gain leverage over life. That's what makes peace powerful. It's not passive acceptance, it's active understanding. When you operate from peace, people notice. You don't get triggered easily. You don't rush to judgment. You listen more, observe more, and act less impulsively. That calmness makes you effective. You see the long game when others are distracted by short-term noise. You understand timing, patience, and compounding, not just in money, but in life decisions. And as you master that rhythm, your influence grows naturally. People trust calm energy. They follow people who make them feel stable, not shaken. Peace also gives you the clarity to separate what's important from what's irrelevant. In a noisy world, focus is rare. Most people are reacting to everything, headlines, opinions, emotions, impulses. But when you're at peace, you can filter. You know what deserves your energy and what doesn't. That precision and attention is what leads to mastery. You stop wasting time on distractions and start investing it into building systems that last. There's also a deeper layer to peace, acceptance of time. Everything evolves. Nothing stays still. The market rises and falls. People come and go. Seasons change. Peace is understanding that cycle and aligning yourself with it instead of fighting it. You start to see setbacks as part of progress, not the end of it. You learn to hold both wins and losses lightly, knowing both are temporary. That's how you stay consistent when others burn out. Ultimately, peace is power because it gives you control over the only thing that truly matters, your state of being. If you can stay composed under pressure, focus under noise, and patient in uncertainty, you win in the long term. You make better choices, build stronger relationships, and maintain clear vision while others are reacting emotional. The world rewards people who stay steady when things get unstable. So cultivate that calm, protect it like capital, guard it from negativity, noise, and fear. Because once you master your peace, you master yourself. And that's the highest form of power any human can achieve.